Hi, Sunday School students. This Sunday we want to talk about a parable. This week's parable is the story of the wheat and the weeds. Now there was a farmer, and the farmer planted his field with seeds. And all the seeds he planted were wheat seeds because he wanted a wonderful crop of wheat. But that night, another man that was his enemy came and scattered seeds from weeds into his garden. And the workers came and they said, along with your little wheat plants, there are weed plants coming up. What should we do? Should we go out and should we pull up all the weeds? And the farmer said, no, we have to be patient. We're going to let the weeds and the wheat grow until it's ready to be harvested, till it grows all the way up. Then, when the wheat and the weeds are full grown, we'll send our workers out. They'll pick the weeds and burn them. And then they'll pick the wheat and we'll bring them into our barn and harvest them. So the farmer's patient so that he can get as much of his crop as he can. So here on my table I have a couple things. You'll see that I have salt and I have sugar. Do salt and sugar taste the same? No. Sometimes we all crave sugar and sometimes we all crave salt. We like both of them, but usually not so much together. Well, if we take our salt and we pour some of that into our container, and then we take our sugar and we pour some of that into our container, and then we stick our finger in and we mix it all up. Oh, there was a little clump there, huh? Anyway, we mix up our salt and our sugar, and let's look in there real close. Okay, now if I told you, okay, go on in there and I want you to separate the salt from the sugar. And I want you to take out all of the salt because the salt, it doesn't belong there. We only wanted sugar here, okay? Do you think you could do it? That'd be a problem, wouldn't it? If in order to take out the salt, we'd have to try to figure out which is which, and they look a lot alike. So if we found a little bit of salt and pinched it in our fingers, we'd probably be also pinching some of the sugar. And if we started trying to pull out the salt, we'd probably be pulling out some of the sugar. So we'd have a problem. And that's sort of the problem that the farmers' workers were going to have if they tried to go out and just pull all the weeds and leave the sugar. So why does Jesus explain things in such confusing ways? Well, Jesus explained things by telling stories that he called parables. And they were stories that people at that time could understand because the people then, they all knew about farming and they all knew about weeds and they all knew about wheat. So they could understand these stories. Sometimes when it's hard for us to understand something, we need to ask for a little help. And God's always there to help us when we're confused. We might think that maybe, in a way, we're all like the weeds in the story. We all make mistakes. None of us are perfect. But with God's grace, we can grow up and even become a flower or become a stalk of wheat or become something really special that both God and ourselves can be really proud of. So anytime things challenge us, we have to remember and we have to ask ourselves, do we want to be the wheat in the world or do we want to be the weeds in the world? And we also have to make an extra special effort not to judge others. Just like the salt and the sugar in our story, they look a lot alike. And we can look at people and we might think, that person, I saw them do this, or I saw them do that, or they don't go to church, or we could make all sorts of judgments and decide that that means they're a bad person. But maybe we just aren't able to see into their hearts to know the good that's in them. So it's always important that we remember not to judge others, but to pray for them and to try to raise up others around us and help each person that we meet and each person that we know to be the best person that they can be. And teach them about what we love and what we know about God. And then that makes us all disciples, and it makes us all more like the wheat in the story. See you next week.